Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as Mr. Most Days Off, and today we are dancing the night away on the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. We've got an awesome episode to talk about, and an awesome returning guest joining us. But before we dip into our guests, how about I don't know other dance terms, so I'll just go back to Tappa, right back over to your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid. How you doing today, Rich?
You know, I've been accustomed to things since we switched over to Get Vocal, and the thing I've been most accustomed to is being like a Sheldon on Big Bang Theory, where I always have my spot. But it looks like I was a few seconds late today. And for those who aren't who are listening and not watching, our guest is in the top right spot. I guess there is no 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm in the bottom left today, and I just don't know how to take this. Like
everything is awful. The whole show is ruined. Exactly. This is going to be a nightmare.
This will either be our worst or best episode ever. But yeah, I'm excited to hear what you have to say about this episode, Miles, because I know you've been really, really looking forward to this one. So I'm interested to see what everyone has to say. So I guess I'll throw it back to you. The man, the myth, the upside down frown. It is Miles.
Damn it. This is more of a smile. I'll work on that. And coming back to the show, someone who I always have a great time talking to. Sometimes he joins us with his wife and co-host of the Throwdown Thursday podcast. Today he's joining us solo. Welcome back, Patty Cakes. How have you been, sir?
Oh, I'm doing all right, and Richie, I'm apologizing for taking your spot, but you always did seem more of a power bottom to me. So being on the lower half, I figured that would work out for you.
Less work for me now.
Yeah, just lay there and take it, and you'll be, providing the
support.
Necessary trust to propel the episode along.
Well, there'll be an explosion at the end, I'm sure.
Oh yes, very climactic.
All right, this stinks already. Oh, man. So, Patty Cakes, last time you were on the show, I believe your book had just come out. How Much Do You Tip an Exorcist? And we talked about that. What is new in your world since then?
Let's see. What is new in my world? Well, it's been about a year since that came out, so it's been a while since I've been on the show.
Yeah.
It makes sense. There is, generally the only way to get a spot on this show is to create an alternate universe where you already have a spot on the show. Because these spots are in such high demand, so it's difficult. That's
why there's never an opening for a guest panel in any corner.
Never, ever. No. But, oh, pardon me. But no, I let's see. What have I been doing? I've been working on a follow-up to that. I recently, I was an associate producer for a film that's coming out hopefully later this year, if not early next year, called Celophaeus, which is a Lovecraftian story. It's part of the Dream Cycle series of stories. So I've been working on that for, basically the last few months. Doing all kinds of various stuff. I am in it in one scene, which is very cool. We filmed at Hammond Castle in Gloucester, Massachusetts. And if Gloucester sounds familiar, you've probably seen The Perfect Storm. That's where that takes place.
Have seen that movie. Did not sound familiar, not going to lie.
Everybody's like, oh, hey, Captain, the water's filling up really quick. We got to get back to Gloucester. Like, that's how everybody.
That's that's the scene. Yeah, it's like the only dialogue in that movie. Actually,
please throw in "I'm walking here."
It's crazy though about it is like Mark Wahlberg is from South Boston, and like he even affects like an over the top, ridiculous Massachusetts accent. Mm-hmm. It's like that's not how I've never heard anyone, with the exception of like maybe 2 or 3 people when they were drunk at like a sporting event, talk that way.
Mark Wahlberg does have drunk at a sporting event energy like all the time though. So I feel that works.
Yeah, no, that's fair. oh, look at me, I'm an inventor, I'm a scientist. No, you're not.
Then he's Texan in Transformers, so don't forget that.
Yeah, he was a Texan inventor. Yeah, but see,
because he's got range, That's what it's all about.
But I mean, a lot of guys are like, oh, like in Gladiator, you have Russell Crowe. He's like, oh, look at me, I'm a Spaniard. Like, no, you're not.
Making movies, making songs, and fighting around the world.
Exactly. Or you have Sean Connery. He's like, oh, look at me, I'm Egyptian. No, you're not. No, you're not. Like,
you just got extra Bostonian there whenever you know you're not.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I get fired up, it's funny because my dad is from like central Massachusetts and my mom is from Connecticut, and I tend to speak more like my mom. So I pronounce my R's, but like when I get fired up, like my wife says, the accent really comes out.
Can we just all pick an accent for the show and go with it and just see what happens?
Yeah, I'm gonna do Rigelian by a startling coincidence. It's exactly the same as Massachusetts.
So there's two other things that you've been up to recently that I actually wanted to talk about, even though I asked you, and I'm glad we got here. But the things I really want to hear more about is your work with The Other Side of Midnight, where you play, I believe, 2 different characters at this point, or possibly more than that at this point. And then let's talk about that. And I also want to talk about the Amalgamania Awards, which you just got done hosting.
So Other Side of Midnight, I only play one character. I play Will Mouse. He is a Darkling, and Will Mouse is named for Mary Shelley's son, William. That's what she called him. She called him Will Mouse. Mary Shelley, of course, a pioneer in horror who wrote Frankenstein. And the other, he's a puppet. He's furry and obnoxious. So
Mary Shelley's son was a puppet, you mean?
Yeah, son was a puppet.
Okay.
Frankenstein was a doctor, not a puppet. You idiot! God.
Oh yeah.
Puppet. And the other puppet is named Wilton, and my wife originally came on to play Wilton, but the host of the show, because we had like a human female host, she had to step away, so Ash is taking over that role.
Oh, cool.
And a friend of ours is stepping in to take on Wilton. He does an excellent Boris Karloff, which is awesome because I believe Wilton it's either Boris Karloff or Bela Lugosi's middle name, and that's what he's.
You guys are just like super connected in like the roots of old school horror. It sounds like.
Yeah, and basically what the show is we come in. It takes place in 1979 Demonshire, Massachusetts, like a town that's like lost out of time and out of space. And the only way we can communicate with the outside world is by broadcasting public domain movies. So like we start off and we talk a little bit about it, and we have some banter back and forth, and we play some of the movie, and then we come back and we talk about it a little bit. And it's like, what is going on with this movie? What's happening? Generally I'm not, my character is like, he's kind of like the dumb one and doesn't really pay attention to things.
I don't know anyone like that.
Yeah. Right. It's kind of like, if he was like a stoner puppet, I guess,
not ringing a bell. Yeah. Not sure what you mean.
Not that that's original. Cause Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem did that first, but then we wrap up, and there's always like some specific holiday that we're celebrating, and usually it's something that we made up, like Mustache Day. Or
I was trying to think of that fake holiday they have in the Star Wars Christmas special, but I'm totally blanking on it. Life Day, yeah, there it is. A lot of Life Day celebrations, I assume. And It sounds like Ashes is actually doing so well that she's too big time for Diddley now. So that's good for her. Honestly, that's our goal for all of our guests here, is we want you to one day look back on this experience of the show and just be like, wow, I can't believe I was so desperate to go on that podcast. Like that's
declining invitations in the future. That's the goal.
That podcast is a dump. If you ever see me back there, I fucked up bad.
Exactly. I feel like you had too hard of an R in that, sir, though. Watch it.
I know. Well, I was doing an impression of somebody else doing an impression of somebody else. So, Oh, and I did learn that everybody's heard of the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon thing.
Yeah.
Everybody has like a Kevin Bacon number, and I found out that for Ash and I, it's 2. So we were in a short film called From Within with a gentleman named Skip Shea, who was in Shutter Island with Patricia Clarkson, who was in Beyond All Boundaries with Kevin Bacon.
That's pretty cool. That you've shortened up the list for sure.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, if you jump from here to here to here to here, but like someone was telling me like, oh no, if you look at it this way, like look, because I thought it was like 5 steps the way I was doing it, because I was like connecting, like Mark Ruffalo was in.
You were just taking like the scenic route to get to your connection with Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, I was taking the long way, but we got there.
That's fair. I mean, when you have a ride with like that, you want it to last a while, I would think. But in this case, it's cooler to be shorter, I guess.
It's about the destination, not the cheer.
Finally paying off.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. So when does, like, if somebody wants to check out The Other Side of Midnight, where can they find it? Where is this available?
Nowhere yet. We're still filming season 1 because we've had some cast turnover, so we have to kind of redo some of the episodes. Ash isn't playing the same character. Like the host, her name is Ursula Grimsworth, and Ash is playing a different character named Veronica Merkshade, and I keep calling her Erotica Milkshake.
I thought you were going to go with a Merkin joke there, but that definitely works better. Yeah.
Yeah, you trying to keep it classy. But yeah, we're still filming season 1 because a lot of us are working on other projects. Like the director is works for a major network, so he has very limited time to shoot, and the producer was part of the production that we were working on with Celophaeus. So he's got his hands in many pies as well.
Very cool. So since that's not available yet, we'll definitely be on the lookout for it whenever you do have that release. It sounds like a really interesting idea for what it's worth, and I love like the ties to the old school horror stuff. That's actually really fun. But something that I know that is happening, it actually just happened. You just got done hosting the Amalgamania Podcast Awards. How did that go? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean that was a culmination of about 6 months of work. Where we're chatting with a bunch of our friends in one of these millions of Facebook groups, and someone was like, oh, it'd be great, like we should do like podcast awards, and like we kind of kicked it around like as a joke, and then like it started to gain traction and became serious. So
as all great jokes do.
Yeah, and we ended up really like putting this whole thing together, and Ash and I are like, yeah, we'll host it because I have all this podcasting equipment and everything like nobody else in that group really does. So it's like, okay, we can do that. And it's like, all right, well, we got to come up with some categories. And then we came up with categories. Like, all right, now we need, some shows, and now we need people to judge them. And, so all this work, it's like, oh, we're looking for a sponsor. And like, we had an issue with our sponsor, and like I made an audio ad for them that we were playing on all the different shows. And then he's like, all right, well, I changed the name of my business, so you need to make me a new ad. And I was like, okay, you need to give me another check because I already made you your thing, and we've been playing it for a month. You want a new one? It's time to pay for it again. You can't do that with any ad agency. If McDonald's is probably like, it starts to be like, you know what? We're not called McDonald's anymore. We're called like Steve's. So they'll just make all of our cups, put an S on it now, like change all of our marketing material. It's like, no, you're going to pay for that.
We're no longer the golden arches. We're like the golden squiggly. So
now serving only apples.
Yeah, we serve spaghetti and blankets. That's what we do. Mitch Hedberg. But yeah, there was like this whole thing, and I was like, you know what? If they're changing their name and they want new stuff, but they don't want to pay for it, they're not getting any new stuff. So screw them. We're good. And so we put out, what categories we were looking for. And, we did charge people to enter, but like I've seen some of these award show that's like, it's $150 to enter or $75 to enter. And you're going up against like It's like, yeah,
the Joe Rogan experience.
Yeah, or like Kevin Smith's podcast, and it's like, yeah, pay $150 to lose to Kevin Smith, and it's like,
yeah, that guy doesn't have any fans.
It's like, that's stupid. Like, why would I do that? It's like, no, you're going up against people who have similar audiences and similar shows, and there was a big variety and a lot of different folks, submitted shows, and some folks submitted multiple times for each category. And it turns out that 5 out of the 6 awards ended up going to the Dorkening Network, which is I'm a part of, and several of the shows that I am on ended up winning awards, even though I wasn't voting.
Dude. Yeah.
So my buddy Leo ended up with 5 of the 6 wins because he produces pretty much
every one of those shows.
Every one of the show. He just submitted the shows that he produces. He's like, all right, well, I think this guy does great, so I'm gonna submit him for best host, and he submitted me for best host, and it's like, no, like I can't. Like if I won, there would be riots.
So this is like essentially just trying to be a just kind of fun night where I guess podcasts that aren't on that celebrity level just get a little bit of recognition. What are some of the, like, I guess, what would you say were some of your favorite categories that maybe weren't like the common ones, the normal ones you'd expect?
We went with, so we had 5 categories that you could submit to, and it was best interview, best long form, so over an hour, best short form, under an hour, best host, and best visual media. So like folks
on nice
YouTube.
Or good vocal.
yeah. Any Twitch. We were hoping to get some like people who do stuff on Twitch as well. Like if you're a Twitch streamer, it doesn't necessarily have to be a podcast, but we didn't get any Twitch streamers really.
So if I was one of those like hot tub dad bod Twitch streamers, then maybe there would have been a chance there.
Like that.
Is that like a Twitch stream category? Like, is that a thing right now?
I mean, it's Twitch stream category, OnlyFans, Pornhub. I mean, you got all of it there. So
interesting.
Just depends on how far you're willing to go.
My future is less bleak than I once thought.
Right?
It's still quite bright.
And then one of the things that we didn't tell anybody is that as we were judging them, each show or each individual, depending if it was like best host, we could choose to submit this show or this episode, whatever, for best overall. And we did get a couple of celebrities to do some announcements for us.
Nice.
We got Andre Gower from the Monster Squad to do our best visual media.
I love that movie.
Yeah, and Andre is just a phenomenal human being. Coming off a pretty serious health scare, but he's doing a lot better now. And the other gentleman we got was Dominic Pace, who's a friend of mine, who is in a show called, let me check my notes, A Mandalorian. Something like that. I don't know.
That's that one about the time traveling car, right?
Yes. Yeah. But like, he's
is this the guy that like almost hooks up with his mom in the 1950s? That's a big get.
Yeah, that's 1955. Yeah.
I think you're back on that Twitch Pornhub stuff again, Miles.
Dude, that's awesome, man. Yeah. Any shows, award winners, or just any general podcast, Amalgamania podcast awards that you want to shout out real quick?
Oh, absolutely. I want to first thank Leo Pond, who won Best Host, because Leo also produces a lot of the shows on the network. So Leo got Best Host. He got Best Overall for Creator Spotlight, which is also a show that I'm on. Every Monday, we interview different people, and 2 shows where 2 of those episodes are nominated. One where we interviewed Bruce Valanche, and another episode where we interviewed the cast of Grease. And one won Best Interview and Best Overall. Best Visual Media also went to an offshoot of Creator Spotlight, which was basically just me and Leo interviewing Jeffrey Voorhees, who played Alex Kittner in Jaws.
Nice.
And Best Long Form is a really cool show called The East Meets the West, which I'm a co-host on. Basically what this show is.
So are the trophies that you hand out just shaped like a patty cake? Like, is that what you guys give to each other?
They're very nice. They have, the nice writing on them. They're thick acrylic. But East Meets the West is we pair a Shaw Brothers Kung Fu film with a spaghetti Western. And, we discussed that. And I'd never seen any of these spaghetti Westerns.
Yeah.
They're really cool. It's a lot of fun. And I enjoy doing that. But my co-host who produces and runs the show, obviously he's the one getting all the credit. Then Best Short Form was another show that Leo produces called Splash Pages, where they talk about the latest comic book happenings. So that's pretty awesome. Like, everybody had a really good time, except for the folks who didn't.
Well, it sounds like everybody who's you had a really good time. Everyone else not so much.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, people are going to be like, everything that's here, like you're involved with in some way. It's like, yeah, but like
collusion.
I didn't vote for, like, we had like a dozen different judges, like, and if we had like a tie or something was really close, we're like, this could have gone one way or the other. Let's bring in another judge to do this category as well and see if there's any movement, because we had a couple of times where a score, like for I think it was best host, was separated from first to third was separated by 2 points.
Oh wow, yeah, it's a very tight competition.
It was super close. So like sometimes it's like, all right, second and third are tied, and this one only won by 1 point. Like that one's fine. Like we don't need to do that. But like if there was a tie, we'd have to bring in another judge. Like, okay, you had nothing to do with this. You weren't even involved. But here, judge these 3 shows and tell us what you think.
They're going to have to start an ad campaign in the future where the shows submit ads saying, vote for me. I want to see where that goes.
Yeah.
So what I'm gathering is in the last year since you wrote your was it your first book or your second book? It was your second book, right?
My first book that someone besides me published.
Fair. Okay. Well, since How Much Do You Tip an Exorcist came out, you have had a very busy year, becoming a puppet, an actual puppet, and just winning awards left and right. So that's pretty awesome, dude. Congrats!
I thought you were going to
that.
say becoming a puppet and then also playing a puppet.
No, dude, that's really cool. I'm
awesome,
glad that
man.
You're having success with all of that. That sounds really awesome, honestly. Definitely regret not submitting, but hey, it happens. Sorry about that.
Year. This was the first year. This was the inaugural Podcast and Entertainment Awards. So we're going to be doing it again next year. Ash and I will be back hosting. Hopefully some shows that I'm not on will be finalists.
You never know. You don't really mean that for what it's worth. We know that little giggle gives it away. Like, yeah, some of those other shows can try and compete, but
it doesn't suck that like something that I was on got recognition. Like that Jaws interview was phenomenal. Like we broke down. You know how like everybody always says, the shark didn't work, and that's all, like that's like the running joke. Well, we found out why the shark didn't work. Jeffrey Voorhees and his friends would break into the warehouse and jump and play on all the sharks that they had and pull pieces off of them. And then the next day the thing wouldn't work right, and someone was like,
I don't know why it doesn't do it.
It must be some salt water got into the hydraulics. Yeah, we would have done salt water in the hydraulics.
Yeah.
You tried turning it on and off again.
It's definitely not that we are taking shots out of his dorsal fin.
Like they because there were 3 sharks, left side, right side, and full body. So they would, jump on it, jump from one to the other. It's like, yeah, this is a playground. And they would harass Robert Shaw. Like he didn't want to talk to anybody. So they'd all be waiting like a group of 10 kids outside the when he came out and walked to set. They'd be like, hey, Robert, what's going on? How you doing? So that's fun stuff.
That is fun. And at the heart of it all, you still have your Throwdown Thursday podcast happening, which is actually how we came into each other's lives, which all connects loosely back to The Simpsons.
Kevin Bacon.
Also Kevin Bacon. But I know that at the heart of a lot of what you do, which is very much based in like the nerddom, the geek culture, fandom type of stuff, and so much of it goes back to your upbringing on The Simpsons, which we've talked about so many times before, just like Richie and myself. And today we're really excited to have you back to talk about the last tap dance in Springfield, which is an episode that, as Richie talked about at the top of the show, I have very fond memories of this episode. For whatever reason, this is one of those episodes that just stands out in my mind. Tappa, tappa, tappa. Like, I can't say the word tap in any context without saying tappa, tappa, tappa. Like, that's just not something I'm capable as a human of performing that sequence without saying tappa, tappa, tappa. So I'm very excited to have you here for this episode, to have you once again share your thoughts on this show that helped formulate so much of what happens in all of our lives. So with that said, we should go ahead and start by announcing Last Tap Dance in Springfield originally aired on May 7th in the year 2000. We get the chalkboard gag that says, "I will not dance on anybody's grave." And for our couch gag, we get the majority of the Simpsons clan very competently swinging in on a vine, much like Tarzan might, and landing on the couch. But then we get Homer and much more of a George of the Jungle-esque, like, ah, screaming as he flies right past the couch. And that's how we kick off this great episode, which then, like so many great episodes, opens on the Simpsons watching TV in their own home. In this case, we get the Cyborganizer, which is very much like a RoboCop-esque secretary, it would seem.
Yeah, it's definitely fun, and I like Hank Azaria as the Cyborganizer. I am 100% convinced that they have these similar to what like Rick and Morty does when they do like their interdimensional cable type stuff. Mm-hmm. They have like a bunch of words like, oh, Cyborganizer. Write that on a Post-it note and stick it on the wall, and like we'll get to it.
We'll eventually need a Cyborganizer. Yeah,
like no idea what the context is. It's like, oh, what were you guys smoking when you came up with that? We were eating rotisserie chicken. And you just like
3:00 in the morning at the end of a 15-hour workday. Yeah,
like it's just you have no idea. It's like, oh, what about a Cyborganizer? And like, I think that's what a lot of the stuff is, that the stuff that they're watching, especially at the beginning of episodes. My favorite one being Colonel Dracula joins the Navy. Colonel Blair, like that's I laugh so hard at that every goddamn time I see it, just because that's what, and it's basically them making fun of like that whole thing came from the way Bela Lugosi says blood, and it's just like that's now synonymous with like you can't say tappa tappa tappa. I can't not hear somebody talk about a vampire and just go Blair.
There,
the Cyborganizer honestly reminded me of Futurama, where they go to the movies and everyone votes to have Calculon do paperwork. Like, it's very reminiscent of that.
Pretty sure you did.
I love that the Cyborganizer can streamline any procedure except this thing you call love, and that line was enough to get Homer like emotional. He's like, "Oh, poor Cyborganizer." But this is where we actually learn that Homer, for whatever reason, is sitting like on a chair, probably a foot in front of the TV. And this episode starts out with such a strong joke, because Marge essentially points out, like, homie, sitting that close to the television can't be good for you.
Talking about the TV's on can't be good for you.
I love that line so much. It's not really threatening as it sounds like. Richie delivered it, I feel like, in a more homicidal way than Homer did.
Slightly, yes. But it's that again harkens.
I stand by my delivery.
Well, that again harkens to Futurama when they're talking about like, oh, he's not an astronaut, he's a TV comedian, and he was just using space travel as a metaphor for beating his wife.
Yeah, it was a different time and space.
Yeah. Literally.
We get Marge encouraging Homer to come out to the mall with them because she has to take Bart to buy camping supplies. But Homer's like, no, I want to enjoy this show before the network retools it. And we immediately cut back to the show where we now see Cyborganizer is trying to organize a modeling agency and still be a good single father. And we get this tiny little mini robot walk out on stage.
I love you, Daddy.
And then Homer's like, too late. And they're gone to the mall.
Yeah, it's true. I'm wondering, like, did they both suffer the same accident? Like, is that how he was born? Like, was he born missing parts? And they're just like, we have some extra stuff left over.
We'll make a baby out of it.
Yeah, let's just,
I thought that's how babies were made to begin with. When, like, a mommy cuts off a hand and, like, a daddy cuts off a foot. And then you just kind of, like, push them together.
And then you're all right. Oh!
Well done, sir.
The reboot of RoboCop where he had a fake arm but real hand, which I thought was so off-putting.
Yeah. That just seems like it would be extra work, like at that point. Like, yeah,
it's so weird.
We get another great visual gag as we actually cut to the mall because the iStore that Marge takes Homer to is called I Caramba, which is a great little note to Bart's signature catchphrase. We get an idea of just how bad Homer's vision is while Marge is trying to get him an appointment. He's playing with what we think is Maggie, but turns out to be the unibrow baby, and Homer can't tell the difference.
That would totally be me in real life.
Yeah, that's
same costume. Here we go. Same
color onesie and like a kind of pointy head. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I did have an episode where I was
playing with the wrong baby.
No, it was the right baby, but like wrong place. I went to go throw her up in the air until I realized I was under a ceiling fan.
I did that with my nephew. I threw him into a ceiling fan. Yeah, it was a very traumatic afternoon.
Disclaimer: Best Darn Diddly does not express the same viewpoints as Miles as hucking babies into fans.
It's not like I did it on purpose. You just get to roughhousing and you don't keep track of where the fan placement in a room is.
Is that why he's your biggest fan?
You can find that on Miles' OnlyFans account.
Yeah.
That's the only thing he tosses him into.
I looked at the last second and held on to her because I had let her go, and I like grabbed onto her legs. I was like, "Oh, Jesus!" And her dad was looking at me like.
So the dad thought that wasn't cool.
No, he was not a fan.
We need another show called Patty Cakes and Richie Make Dad Jokes.
We need to figure out how to spin this back towards The Simpsons.
Hey, Miles can be on as a special guest.
We see that Homer is actually going to get a visit to the eye doctor, and Marge is going to take Bart to go take care of the shopping. I absolutely love Bart's line here where he's like, "Oh, Mom, can't you just buy me a deck of cards and I'll win everything I need off the other kids?"
I mean, that seems right in character with Bart.
It really does. He's such a little like trickster.
And he's already said that he doesn't need any type of clothes because he's going to swim naked because he believes the human body is a thing of beauty.
Yeah. Good for Bart with that body positivity.
Yeah,
until then Marge points out that every brand has a different idea of husky, and that's kind of like but
that still doesn't faze him. The only thing, he doesn't want to go shopping so bad that he actually puts himself into tantrum position and starts a T-5, 4, 3. Now I'm remembering the dead cat for real tears.
It's called a callback, I believe. Fine, you win. I'll do your shopping for you.
Bart's excited because the tantrum's inverted, but unfortunately he still can't forget about that cat, so he starts crying anyway. And we cut back to the eye doctor who's actually doing an examination on Homer. I love the moment when the optometrist turns out the light and immediately Homer just starts snoring. The doctor wakes up Homer to ask him to read the first line on the chart, which says, "I ate pee-pee."
You did, Miles? I mean,
why, you little... So it turns out Bart had actually, with a Sharpie, written that on the wall. So Homer was actually nailing his eye test. If you're being technical about it,
Well, I mean, he wrote huge letters too.
It was a really huge PP. You're right.
I want to see what this next one was because he was writing "RU" and then we can see what it was, or "You are."
This was made in the year 2000. We probably don't want to know what that was going to say. But I do love, we get the classic situation where the eye doctor, the optometrist, is like changing the lenses out and asking if it's better or worse. We get that scene, but it's Homer choking out Bart, and it's like, nope, that's worse. That's worse. Oh, that one's
better.
Better one or two? One or two? Or is it the same?
So this feels like a good time to talk quickly about the DVD commentary for this episode, which featured the writer of this episode, Julie Thacker, Yardley Smith, Ian Maxtone Graham, George Meyer, the director, Nancy Cruz, and Mike Scully. And when talking about the origins for this story, if you remember, Julie Thacker is actually married to current showrunner Mike Scully. They together have 5 children. And this episode's entire origin came from the fact that their kids, their daughters, really are in dance classes. And Julie hated their teacher, and a lot of the parents she found to be quite obnoxious. So she was basically able to take some of those ideas and turn that into a Simpsons script, with the eye problems coming from the fact that Mike Scully really does just have eye issues, and he was very afraid at first. He eventually got it, but at the time, he was very nervous about the idea of getting laser eye surgery. So, because it was relatively new and experimental. And this episode basically was the merging of those two real life ideas.
In the summation of this episode on the service that I watched it on, the first half of it was about how Homer had to go to the eye doctor and is a candidate for laser surgery. And I'm like, but I feel like that's where the story ends. Like, once he has the surgery, that's it.
I guess technically it ends with him driving to the liquor store with the bullies, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that for a B plot, it's not even really, I'd call it more of a C plot.
Yeah, honestly, I would agree with you on that, because another thing, this is getting a little ahead of ourselves, but since you brought it up, I'll go ahead and mention it. This is a really rare episode in that the A plot and the B plot plots are both the separate children's stories. Like, usually you would have a combination, like one of those plots would be a Bart and Lisa story, and the other story would be something to do with the adults. This episode largely is half Bart's story, half Lisa's story, and they somewhat come together.
Yeah, and the thing about I can understand why he's worried about laser eye surgery, because at the 10-year mark, your eyeballs fall out.
True.
Yeah, but he
Everyone
can't
knows
get that pair
that.
of glasses that makes him look like Val Kilmer, even though that is his favorite door.
Yeah.
It's true. You don't want to Yoko Ono.
She ruined the Plastic Ono band.
Mike Scully did point out that whole is this better or that better, which one's better thing. That's like literally like his least favorite part about going to the eye doctor, and it's always so obnoxious because you can't really tell. He's like, I don't know, my eyes aren't working.
That's how I feel all the time. I just sit there and I'm so indecisive. I keep going, I think they're the same. I don't know. Let's try it again.
Giving you all kinds of guff, like it's like, this one's better. Wow, really?
Maybe I should be examining you.
We cut back to Bart and Marge, or really just Marge, who's doing Bart's shopping. She does have Lisa with her. They go to stores like, what was it? It was Tommy Hill Climber, because, again, they're going camping for camping supplies. So they get things like Blair Witch Repellent, Antler Saw, and Deep Wood Scrabble.
All right.
But that's when Marge and Lisa walk by the cinema, which happens to be playing the film Tango de la Morta, which Marge has been dying to see. Lisa points out it got rave reviews both from Entertainment Radio Network and Radio Entertainment Network.
Yeah, they didn't say what that means in Spanish, and it actually means Tango of the Muerte.
Perfect. I was wondering this whole time.
What I was wondering the whole time is, and you get the answer after the movie's over, but they take all their shopping bags into the movie theater with them. I would never do that in a million years. Like, why don't you go to your car, drop them off, then go to the movies? Like, where are you going to put them?
Yeah, that's true, actually. And I guess this was in the no. I mean, even at this time, I feel. Oh no, this was pre 9/11.
They're a little more packed.
Yeah, I was thinking like you wouldn't be able to just like carry a bunch of packages into a movie theater. Like that would be considered suspicious at this day and age. But I don't know.
But they walk out of the movie at the end.
With in there, do you? No, it's just Blair Witch repellent.
Yeah, don't worry, it's not for anyone but me.
Use it for the Tango de la Muerte.
We do, like, I guess early on in this episode, I didn't realize how quickly we're cutting back and forth between the optometrist story and this movie story, because we cut back to Homer, who's walking out from his appointment, and the nurse is like, hey, don't forget your eye drops. We get a great line from Homer here, where he's like, yeah, all right, already with the add-ons.
Less yapping, more
But she warns that these drops are designed to help your eyes from drying out. And as he like basically ignores her, he walks away, and we see this like very disgusting crust open, like actually cover his face, specifically his eyes,
instantaneously.
Yeah, it happens quickly.
It knows that you're afraid.
We cut to the Dance of the Dead or whatever it is, and we quickly find out that this is more or less a Spanish version of the movie She's All That, where as soon as this woman who looks very plain and boring takes off her glasses and lets her hair down and unbuttons the top two buttons of her shirt, she is suddenly the sexiest woman in the room and is able to perform this sacred dance that allows them to win this competition.
What's her name, Miles? What's her name?
Her name is Lisa Bella, which is Lisa's like name, but with Bella on the end.
I will say this has one of my favorite jokes. Oh, she's going to end up with a Mexican Millhouse.
Yeah.
And I am left to sugar my own churro.
Yeah. Which is a euphemism I'm not familiar with, but like going to start using from now on.
Pretty sure you get the gist of it, you know.
If not, refer to the beginning of our episode when we talked about it in depth.
Yeah, but this is actually, to Lisa's surprise and to Lisa Bella's surprise, the woman that gets chosen. I do love the Mexican Millhouse. Que malo, once again, I must sugar my own churro. So good, so good.
Yeah, that's my favorite joke in this episode. It really is. Like, there's some good like one-liners, you know, including the less yapping, more zapping. You know, that running gag that they have. You know, every few episodes there's something like that. I that's the best one, just because it does look exactly like teenage Millhouse.
Yeah.
With the terrible mustache and all.
Well, and like Miles mentioned, to getting them to win the dance later, it cut really quick, and I actually had to restart this episode multiple times because of my internet connection. It was terrible, and I couldn't get it to rewind. But I thought it said like today Contesto de la Dance, and then tomorrow Revolution. So
yeah, it did.
Did it actually say that?
That was the sign on outside the competition. Yeah. I also want to point out how much it's nice to see Lisa acting like an 8-year-old girl during this episode. We talk about this a lot. Lisa's usually like the smartest Simpson. A lot of times she says some things that are awfully profound for her age. In this episode, she is just taken away by the idea of this girl who has a name like hers and hobbies like hers could actually be the pretty one. She even has a line where she's like, she's not plain, she's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that really helps this episode is Lisa's not immediately good or even competent in any way, shape, or form at the one that she wants to do. And it's different seeing her struggle to succeed at something. And I really liked that aspect of this episode.
Especially when Ralph picks it up so easily, it seems.
Yeah.
Though I guess we don't technically know how long he's been doing it. Yeah, that's true. We're not quite there yet. We do get one more. Lisa's inspired by this movie. She wants to be a dancer. Marge thinks that's great. They should find Homer and talk about it.
Miles, you're just going to gloss over the fact that to win the competition, the two dancers had to pull off just one dance that can beat them.
I feel like we covered it, but if you'd like to go into more depth, go right ahead.
There's only one man crazy enough to actually dance like that, and he's
his
dead.
twin, Eduardo.
Eduardo.
Where he died, I shall live in his apartments.
That was so good.
But yeah, so good that it made Lisa want to dance herself. But unfortunately, Homer, with his crusty eyeballs and the inability to see, has been tricked by Kearney, Dolph, and Jimbo, which Kearney is doing a Marge impression, which is about as good as Richie and mine. But it's well enough to convince Homer to take a ride with his wife to the liquor store where she's requested Jack Daniels and a carton of smokes.
As Marge generally does.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, dear. And in the background, you see Dolph and Jimbo chuckling and high-fiving each other. And that actually brings us to the end of our first act, which all of that, like as we recapped it, sounded like a lot. That was only a 5-minute act. So that was very much just getting to the actual point of this episode.
It's just the mystery of the dance.
Which is where we start our second act, which is at Little Vicky Valentine's School of Dance. And we see posters all over the wall of a performer that is very reminiscent of Shirley Temple. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The biggest one is this is absolutely the inspiration of this character. And they actually reached out to Shirley Temple herself to try to get her to take this role. And it just wasn't, they talked about it a little bit on the commentary. They didn't give any specifics, but they just basically weren't able to make it happen. But they also said that might have been for the best because, quite frankly, Tress MacNeille does such an incredible job in this role. And some of the line delivery she has with this character is just so sharp that while it would have been really cool and kind of fun to have Shirley Temple on the show, I don't know that somebody that doesn't have that background would be able to bring as much humor to the role as Tress MacNeille did.
I think
you would have like her, and you're supposed to kind of hate this character.
Yeah, I think it would have been very similar to, and like some of the jokes that we saw with Mickey Rooney on the Radioactive Man episode, where it's like, I was a top box office draw from 1939 and 1940. Wow, spanning 2 decades.
But Mickey Rooney is not Shirley Temple. Like he's got a comedy background. I feel like versus Shirley Temple. Has a dance background, and she did a lot. In fact, I was going to say she literally saved the Fox network, so she is like a really big deal. She basically saved them during the Depression.
Whoa! I think World War II helped Fox a little bit, Miles.
Fair.
I was going to say it's like, hey,
no, dude. Shirley Temple got drafted, and she was over there punching Nazis left and right, bro. Like she is Fox's hero.
It's like, hey, do you remember when you were in movies 70 years ago? Do you want to play a caricature of that?
Yeah. And keep in mind, this woman was pretty old at this point, right? She was however old in the 1930s when she's making these movies, and then add 70 years to that. Probably retired from filmmaking for at least a little while at this point.
Well, let's see. Shirley Temple was born in 1928, so she would have been 72,
which is still very achievable. There are voice actors
Betty
that can
White's
do it.
Doing it.
Yeah, but Betty White never quit doing it. Is the thing.
She didn't even die for 14 years after that. She died in 2014.
There we go. I guess we missed our chance now.
So it's not it's like, oh, I'd love to be on there, but I'm just not feeling well. Well, you know what cheers me up when I'm feeling down? Dancing.
Oh, this was making the chalkboard gag at the beginning all the more serious all of a sudden.
Yeah, it got a lot.
I don't want to say it.
We're dancing on graves tonight, buddy.
Oh, the tappa.
That's it. But no, so Shirley Temple, obviously a big career. She was an outright star, an icon of her time. And again, to Fox, she is a very big deal. And also to Julia Thacker. I'm totally blanking. Yeah, Julia Thacker. I'm sorry, Julie Thacker. That's what it was throwing me off. Also, just she was a big fan of her movie, so very much an inspiration to this whole character. But I think Tress MacNeille taking over it really did add a lot to the development of this episode. But regardless, we see at the dance school that there are a bunch of different types of dances available for Lisa. or at least for people who can dance. There's ballroom, which we see Principal Skinner with her mom, who refuses to let him lead. Because
and you never will be.
And then she dips him.
Yeah, it's very awkward.
Which is such a great visual gag.
We also get square dancing, which there's a caller. Oh, the birdie in the cage, odd lady in the center now. The birdie is putty in the crowd's hop in. Pluck the feather all together. And yeah, I don't know if I had the cadence on that right or not, but
right?
Yeah, that seemed all right. But of course, Vicky also promotes the dance that made her ever so famous, tap.
And I love the fact that, it's like, oh no, it's not Lil Vicky anymore.
Yes.
It's Vicky.
It's just Vicky.
Oh, thanks, Vicky. Little
No,
Vicky.
it's Little Vicky. But you just said.
Again,
like you were saying, Tress MacNeille does some great line readings, and there's some great, and obviously this is a caricature of Shirley Temple, who started in movies at age 7, so the joke is like, when I was your age, I had 43 movies under my belt.
Yeah. Right. Show some respect.
Well, I mean, and that's fair. I mean, she did a lot of movies, and there was that, that conspiracy theory that she was, tapping messages to the Allies, and that's what. That was part of the war effort.
That was part of the war effort. Is she had to tap Morse code till her toes bled.
Net Viage.
Yeah,
exactly.
What irritated me about this episode, though, is the next part. Is that the whole purpose of Lisa doing this? Because Vicky is like, you could do the dance that made me famous, tap, and she's like, I want to learn something in real life, like the Tango de la Muerte.
I love that Lisa tweets that. She's like, I want to learn a dance that I can use in real life, like Tango de la Muerte. Like Lisa has, she still has 8-year-old brain where she's not processing that was just a movie.
But still, tango is a real thing, and she's interested in that. But this terrible instructor is like, "Oh, bless your heart, let's get you some tap shoes." So
even Marge goes to battle for her, little Vicky. I think that she had her heart set on.
Little advice: don't live through your child.
Which is actually good advice, but I don't think that's what Marge is doing in this situation.
Think so
yeah.
No, I think she was just like, I think she, I don't know if she wanted to do that. It's like, don't live through your child. I will live through your child.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is.
I'm still 7.
But it does seem like Lisa is going to be doing tap dancing, whether she likes it or not. Then we cut over to our B plot, which is, again, just now actually getting started, I think we can really say, because Bart and Milhouse are boarding the bus for a full week of camp, where Milhouse is excited because that's a week away from having to use ear medicine. But then suddenly the writers of The Simpsons remembered that they've already sent Bart and Milhouse to summer's camp, so they have to get them off this bus somehow. Yeah. So they have Nelson reveal that he's just going to beat them up all week. And when Bart and Milhouse are like, why? Well, you got to beat up somebody.
No, it fits with the posters that are in his room.
It does, yeah. Got to nuke something. Yeah, absolutely. So Bart and Milhouse bail out of that situation, realizing
worst teachers ever on a field trip.
There's chaperones. Yeah, they're non-existent.
Every other bus ride we've ever seen these kids get on, especially for camp, there's dozens of parents.
This is the camp that they have for Wet Hot American Summer, so that's why this trip is going like it is.
I think it's more like deranged, where they take roll and Edna and Skinner realize the Bart and Milhouse are there, and they're like, they never turned in their slips, and just throw them out the window or something.
Yeah, this seems like a lot of paperwork.
Skinner would eat the permission slips.
Yeah.
True.
They've gone the way of Ooter. Who? I don't know.
You might say there's a little bit of Ooter in all of us.
Bart knows that they don't want to be on that bus, but they don't really know where to go. And Milhouse even points out, I don't want to go home. My grandma's sleeping in my bed, and she has skin like a basketball. Bart realizes that the opportunity at hand is actually a lot bigger than they may have originally realized, because everybody thinks they are at camp all week, which means that they can do pretty much whatever they want. And more importantly, they can stay wherever they want.
Yeah, like the Four Seasons. Each room has its own safe.
I do like the next gag that we see when it's like, oh, it's like my dad always says, and we see Bart imagining Homer saying, like, for an evening or a week, there's no place like the mall.
The mall.
And he runs off, and Milhouse is like, what? What does he say?
It's great. It's a good joke.
Because there's so many times in sitcoms where it's like, oh, this is what my dad always said, and like they
just like fades there, yeah.
And everyone understands and is privy to what this person is thinking. But
I want to make a comment about the safe joke real quick, because that was also, they mentioned on the commentary. Mike and Julie took their kids on vacation, and their kids are always like obsessed with the safes in the hotel rooms. And on one particular trip, one of their younger daughters actually accidentally locked one of her toys, like this cheapo, just bullshit plastic toy. She accidentally locked it in the safe and couldn't remember the combination she used. So she got like upset and started crying. And they actually had to like call the maintenance for the hotel to come up and like unlock the safe. And just like Mike, like the whole time was like just thinking like, oh my God, when they see that this is for a toy, it's just going to be so ridiculous. But they got their daughter's toy back in the end. So all's well that ends well.
That's
a Simpsons joke.
Say again.
I said now it's a Simpsons joke.
Now it's forever in a Simpsons script. Yes, exactly.
It's a very personal episode for Julie.
Yeah, it kind of is. But again, I think that is part of the reason why it's so good. And we're gonna. I have more to mention from it, because there's a lot of Mike and Julie's personal life in this episode for sure.
Well, I mean, they say to write what you know.
Yeah,
that's why Miles writes about him aiding pee-pee.
That's exactly right. That's just what all of my stand up is pretty much just me miming eating a giant dick is what it is.
Oh, are you
wait, that's what that means?
No,
yeah, that's what that is. Oh man, we cut back to the dance school where we see that little Vicky is actually personally teaching the class, which along with Lisa, we see Ralph, Allison, Janie, Sherry, and Terry, along with two unnamed girls in the script. And I think it's nice to point out here that Ralph is actually pretty good at this, it seems. Like, in fact, he's standing out amongst the class.
Yeah, I think that's a recurring theme where, you take characters who you wouldn't normally think would be good at something, like Bart being good at ballet, being taught by Susan Sarandon. Now Ralph is really good at ballet. I mean, Ralph's got to be good at something, and I would assume
he's good
that Ralph is an idiot savant somehow.
It's got to be, right? And that's true, too. They keep him Ralph because, like, as they're demonstrating the key to good dancing, which is, of course, tappa, 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 Ralph was, like, concerned because he's like, teacher, my shoes are making noise.
You must be Ralph.
My daddy shoots people.
Freaks the teacher out.
Like, I love Ralph-centric episodes, but even though this isn't a Ralph-centric episode, you definitely get like a couple of standout moments. One that we'll get to towards the end, which is probably my favorite Ralph moment from this season. But like, you give him this ability, like you were saying, like he's a standout, he's really good, but he's still Ralph. He doesn't know how to express himself,
right?
In typical societal norms. My dad shoots people.
But he's effective in everything he says. Damn it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The wisdom of Ralph. That's what it is.
To me, it's just interesting that it's like all the girls that Lisa has at one point been like friends/frenemies with. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's almost an extra added thing where like she's been competitive with Allison, and then isn't the other Lisa from Lisa Kudrow? I don't remember, whatever her name was. But it's interesting to me that they're going to make Lisa struggle in something where she's kind of competitive at being the best at things.
The peer group they choose, you're right, is absolutely like it adds a dynamic to her failure in this.
Yep.
And her failure is immediately noticeable because like when the teacher hears that somebody's off, she actually has Ralph dance first, assuming that it might be him. He nails it. And then Lisa tries and she literally trips over a potted plant and everyone starts laughing at her. And I love this line because Vicky is actually like, children, stop it. For all you know, she has a medical condition.
No.
Oh, I see. There are so many lines delivered by Yardley Smith in this episode that are just like that, where it's just like a one word or like a very meek sentence. Like later we'll hear her say to her parents, like, it's me. And she just delivers it like with such like it's almost like a sense of dread with it, where she's just like, damn it.
I will say though, that line that you're referring to, what is that? The furnace? It's me.
Yeah.
Reminded me very much of the South Park episode where where the kids form the band Moop, and it's like, what's going on here? Oh, we're just practicing our band. Oh, I thought a group of Vietnamese people were having their intestines pulled out through their mouths.
Yeah, good joke. They just kind of took it to the next level, I guess, on South Park.
4 levels.
Well, they want to paint a clear picture, Miles.
Yes.
Totally fair. And actually, speaking of clear pictures, that reminds me of back to the commentary for the animation department. Julie Thacker actually brought some video of their own daughter's dance recitals to the animation department so that they could specifically get an idea of what like different kids at different levels look like when they dance. And the animator for this episode is actually a first-time episode animator, and they said that this is probably one of the most challenging episodes of the seasons, just with all the action sequences, the movement that has to happen, the backgrounds, of course, are different, and to be able to pull it out with this execution. And it being your first time being in the lead role there is extra impressive. But having that personal touch once again of their actual kids dancing, I think is kind of cool to give the animators like the idea of what they should be trying to imitate.
Way to hit the ground tapping.
Tappa.
That when she showed the video, that they were like, oh, which one is your kid? It was similar to like
they don't want to accidentally be like, that kid sucks.
Well, which one is? Oh, that's my son. Which one? The balding fat ass? No,
the one that kind of looks like comic book guy.
Like, did you do you think that they did something like that? It's like, oh, well, which one's your kid? See that one that's really good? Yeah, that's not her.
Yeah.
But do follow this one. For the one that screws up all the time, that's the one that you're going to model for Lisa.
Yeah, they did. They do remember talking just in general about how it does kind of set a weird dynamic for Lisa to be failing in that way. But that's why this episode works the way that it does.
I just had an epiphany because you were saying that all the kids that were in this group, it's Sherry and Terry and 2 unnamed girls. Do you think that might have been their kids?
Oh, they didn't. I would have think that they would have mentioned that on the commentary is the only thing, but could absolutely just be a hidden thing in there.
Yeah, like it's like you never see these kids before or after, and like they were looking at video of the kids. Maybe they just decided to throw them in there as like
that's a cool idea if they did do that. They should have done that.
I swear, one of the 2 unnamed kids is the blonde girl that was played by Lisa Kudrow.
Allison?
That's Allison from the first episode.
I thought Allison was the brunette from the Telltale Heart episode. What was her name?
I thought that was Allison.
Right, but that's a different character from.
What was Lisa Kudrow's? Phoebe? No, not Phoebe.
I thought it was also named Lisa. I thought it was like, hey, your name's the same as mine.
Oh yeah, shut up! Why do you keep telling me to shut up?
Yeah. You're talking about Lard of the Dance, which is the first episode of season 10.
First episode. Okay. Well, there's.
But I don't
there's
remember.
some search engine that could help us.
Yeah, that might. I think you're right. I think it is Lisa, and she's voiced by Lisa Kudrow, so that makes so much sense.
But there was a blonde that looked just like her, and that's why I was saying like all the people that Lisa's been closest to that are her own age are kind of in that episode. So
any type of rivalry that she's had.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Well, getting back with our skipping camp boys, Bart and Milhouse, we see that they have decided to go to the Springfield Mall, and they are having a great time. They announced that the mall is going to be closing, and instead of leaving, Bart points out a vent they can climb through.
Sorry.
There you go. Glad that we settled that so we can move past it. They climb into a vent so that they can escape from security, and they end up coming crashing through it. But fortunately, they fall into 2 barrels full of like candy, essentially, literally gummy worms and chocolate coins. And Bart has a declaration of, we're like 2 kids in a candy store.
I mean, that's an accurate observation.
Yeah, I did pretty good there.
Okay, Ralph.
And fun fact, gummy worms have more bones than real worms.
That is true. Yeah, that is a fun or kind of unfun fact. I don't know, one of those two. They also have a shoe fight, which looks like a lot of fun.
Dead Rising 2 and Dawn of the Dead, eat your heart out in this one.
And then they go to a cookie store where they have a giant tube of cookie dough, and Milhouse puts it in his mouth, and Bart jumps on it. That's how big it is. And you literally see cookie dough like squirting out of Milhouse's nose. It's actually kind of gross, but really funny.
Yes, are you ready? Just a minute. I mean, I don't care how ready you are. You're not.
Yeah, it's too much dough.
Full load right there.
Oh, you can't handle this.
The most fun thing, I think, is when they try to take an inflatable raft down a ascending escalator, but it does get caught and they get torn. It gets all torn up to shreds.
Yeah, and they have to hang from the railing.
Yeah, that's right. They bail over the escalator and they're like hanging off the second story railing. You're right.
It's like, whoa, I really like, and they just cut away and don't show how they got over there.
Yep.
I'm fairly certain that Milhouse would have fallen to his death.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like the most agile person to be able to get himself out of that situation, but who knows? Maybe Bart helped. We see that they've pretty much trashed Small, though, which actually, I was going to say, Richie and I actually had a similar experience to this once. It's not like we trashed them all by any means, but Richie used to work at a popular gaming retail location that you would find in most malls in this era of time. And actually, it would have only been a few years after this episode came out that they were having like the security gate worked on. So Richie, myself,
my key broke in ours. I was closing the shop up and the key broke off.
There it is. So Richie's manager, myself, our other roommate, and I think a couple of other friends. Richie just texted us. They're like, "Hey, come up to the mall, bring beer." So we did, and we ended up actually playing football in the middle of an empty mall, which was a wildly good time. We didn't trash the place. We moved shit around, but we moved it all back. I also worked in this mall at this time, or if not then, soon after. I don't remember, but
it was right before, I think.
But yeah, so we did rearrange some things, but we put it all back before we left. But that was a really good time, and this episode reminded me of that. Which
it was a little Nerf football, and I was not the one that brought the beer for what it was worth.
I brought the beer.
I thought it was one of the other.
No, you guys texted me to bring beer up there, so I did.
I don't remember that.
I brought the beer.
Okay.
I assure you, I remember. Your manager's name was Joe, if I'm remembering that correctly. He Captain Morganed me on my 21st birthday.
And me.
All right, we're off topic here. Let's get back to Bart and Milhouse's adventures. They did trash them all. They made an absolute mess of things, and they see the next morning that the security is opening up, and they actually hide in the like camping store window display while the mall security explains to the police like what's happening. Oh my God, look at this place. How could this happen? Candy chewed, wigs pulled from the stand, cheese packages poked and repoked.
Every sign points to one obvious culprit: a giant rat.
Rowdy
down the mall.
Bart and Milhouse are like instantly like, whoo! But unfortunately, Wiggum announces that they're going to have to shut down the mall, and we actually get a little kind of Jawsy reference here because the mall guy is like, on President's Day weekend? Are you crazy?
Crazy with concern for the public, yes. Now shut this place down before the old folks come in for their morning walk.
I still think, and they Dawn of the Dead it and just take the walker and close it. And
yeah. You see like all of the old people like trying to break down the doors. Yeah.
I mean, the old people do go in for their walks awfully early at the malls. Again, Miles and I both worked at the mall. We can verify.
That was a real thing that I do not understand, but absolutely is a part of mall culture.
I do really like the fact that that Wiggum and Lou and Eddie decide that they're gonna set up cheese under an anvil.
An Acme trap too.
Like, oh, I really hope this Acme trap works. It's like, oh, damn, that cheese looks tempting. You think I could get it before the end?
That's such a good joke.
I'm sorry. The animal cruelty that ensues the next time they do it made me laugh my ass off. And
the best part is that they have a backup lion.
That when they said get the backup line, I laughed even harder.
What? I think the backup line might be my favorite joke in the whole episode. Honestly, it's so funny.
I don't know. Like him reaching for the cheese was amazing.
That was also really good.
I don't know, Chief. It's 1,000,000 to 1 shot. I like.
I like those odds.
I don't really regret. My only mistake was reaching for the cheese.
I feel like, with no disrespect to Lisa, they followed the wrong A plot, or the wrong plot on this was the A plot. I want to see more mall madness going on. I want to see.
You feel like the tappa should have been the B plot, and the mall antics should have been the A plot. I could see the argument for that.
Where like the recital ends up being at the mall or something, and that's what.
See, that would have been a cool way to tie it in as well. And like Bart
had to dance on the old people.
Bart and Milhouse like come falling through like as they're trying to hide out or something like that. That could be fun.
No, the old people break through.
It all happens all at once. It's just this big calamity.
This confluence of events that all ends up at the mall
all perfectly woven together. Yeah.
Let's go to the mall, everybody.
Well, actually, we already cut ahead to some of our mall stories. So let's cut back to the dance studio for just a minute. Lisa's getting more and more frustrated, and she's talking to Vicky. What am I doing wrong, little Vicky?
Well, you're falling a lot. Maybe you should work on that.
Yeah, well, no offense, but maybe I need a little more instruction than just tappa, tappa, tappa.
Why, back when I was your age, I had 43 movies under my belt, and I had to do it without tappa, tappa, tappa. I would have killed for tappa, tappa, tappa.
Lisa immediately backs off. She is, in fact, just frustrated. She apologizes, but Vicky is still a little bit upset with the attitude.
Well,
sorry, Lisa's got a valid point there. You don't know how to
absolutely
tappa, tappa, tappa. Okay, I tried that, and I'm still not good. Do you have anything else for me? Tappa, tappa, tappa.
Tappa.
Like,
hey, you know what, Patty Cakes? You can just save that attitude for Grandpa's farm, okay? You just need to turn that frown upside down.
Oh, okay.
Hey, that's a smile, not an upside down frown. Work on that too.
Like, that's a great line too.
We also get there's very little Homer and Marge in this post the opening sequence, but I actually really like this scene with Homer. They get a postcard from Bart that says, "Dear Mom and Homer, I'm having fun." And Homer is like, "Oh, it sounds like he's having fun."
Why does it have a picture of Vitamin Barn?
Didn't you go to camp?
The old Vitamin Barn.
I love how Homer just completely like tricks himself essentially.
He Mandela affects himself all the time when Bart's involved.
Oh yeah, he definitely it's like this weird thing where, I think they did an episode of House on this where the guy couldn't quite remember words. So he would remember words that were similar. I couldn't tackle the bear meant I have bipolar, because polar bear. That's how Homer is.
Word association, but brain association.
Yeah, just go wrong quick.
Yeah, he knows the word he wants, the old Vitamin Barn, but it's the old, drug barn where, we used to hang out and, drink beer and smoke pot. That's probably what he's thinking of.
Me no function, brain well without.
Yeah, because we do know that he went to camp as a kid.
After we get Homer's response to Bart's camping postcard at the Vitamin Barn or the old Vitamin Barn, Lisa actually walks in, and this is where Lisa is. You can tell she's upset just by her body language. But Marge and Homer are in super super mode. Homer's even "Look at you, all sugar and spice instead of equations and test tubes. You're Daddy's precious little dancing queen,
and you look adorable."
And this is though Lisa was actually about to, I think, tell her parents that she wanted to quit. And Marge even is still encouraging. "Yes, our tiny tapper. What was it that you were going to say after I wanted to be a dancer, but
I just need more practice. See ya."
And as she's walking away, we hear an offbeat, clicking sound. And Homer's "What is that awful sound?"
The furnace?
It's me.
Oh.
And that's actually kind of a sad moment to end our second act on. This is another situation. Our first act was 5 minutes. This act is essentially 6.5 minutes. And we still
That's
have
longer than usual for Miles.
We still have a lot of episode left to kick off our third act with. We see that Lisa has not given up, but she's still not getting it. She's actually watching some of little Vicky's old movies in black and white. I don't know why it cracks me up so much, but there's this funny thing with a cat where basically this guy's like talking to her about like dancing, and Vicky's complaining that her cat's sick, but there's no animal doctor or anything that can help her from feeling better. It's just dancing that can help. And as they start dancing, you can see these like fake paws come and covering the cat's eyes like they're in disbelief.
I absolutely
so good.
Yeah, and it never failed that in movies like this, like even in real life in particular, that it's always somebody that's like, but I don't know how to do this. And it's like, oh, it's okay. I'll show you.
And then immediately pro.
Yeah. And you don't have 15 years.
Dancing?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a minute. You can train the cat to tap dance. You can't train it to rub its eyes. Like, that's what threw me off. Like, you can train this cat to tap dance, but not rub its own eyes.
And I love that Lisa. The cat dances better than I do.
Such a good line.
This is where we cut to back to the mall briefly, where we see the Acme cheese trap that we already talked about with Chief Wiggum. And then we cut back to the auditorium with Lisa, who is actually, I'm sorry, this is actually with Vicky still. Vicky is talking to Professor Frink, who is apparently building them a spaceship for the set, which immediately made me think, like, do you need like an actual working spaceship for the set? Because that's the only reason you would want Professor Frink to build this thing.
Well, you know what? I think that's like a callback to Homer the Bodyguard episode, where he takes Luke and he fights through the crowd and he goes into the ship and he comes out, how was I supposed to know it's not a real space?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Professor Frink assures her that it's going to be done. But Vicky is like just very stern with him about it, basically.
Well, I like that Frink says, I visited the future, and yes, it will.
Vicky is talking to her class. Okay, kids, tonight's the big night. Now remember, the important thing is just to dance flawlessly.
Excuse me, why isn't my name in the program?
It is, silly. You've got the most important part of all.
Curtain puller.
No one can see the show if the curtain isn't open.
But my parents are counting on seeing me dance. And I've worked ever so hard. Starting to sound like little Vicky, too.
I'm sorry, Lisa, but giving everyone an equal part when they're clearly not equal is called what again, class?
Communism.
That's right, and I didn't tap all those Morse code messages to the Allies till my shoes filled with blood just to roll out the welcome mat for the Reds.
You can definitely hear Sherry and Terry like at the forefront of that communism thing.
Yeah. I love another great line here. It's so good as whenever Lisa starts to pull the rope.
All right, I'll be the stupid curtain puller.
Vicky immediately is like, no, not like that. Do it smoothly, like this. Pulla, pulla, pulla.
I got your pulla.
Do it myself.
But this actually works out to be a moment of fortune for Lisa because it turns out Professor Frink overheard their conversation.
Excuse me, Lisa, but I couldn't help but overhear your nerdy predicament. Maybe I can be of assistance with the dancing and the twisting and the sing kung fu fighting. Deedle dee 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 do.
We cut to Professor Frink's house where he's demonstrating how he came up with this technology.
Wait, so he took Lisa home with him?
Apparently. So this has like big Mr. Dink energy from Doug to me, where it's like this is something that just happened regularly on this show that just would never happen in today's society, and probably didn't happen a lot in that age of society either, frankly. Like kids just don't go to random adults' homes and like look at their cool toys. Like there's literally like warning videos about that very thing.
I thought he just had like a workshop there at the mall somewhere or something, or like it was like
it actually scanned his house. Like we saw the outside of his house, and it even says in the script at his house, Professor Frink places a dancing can on the table.
I don't trust anything the script says, to be frank.
Well, I trust my eyes, and they did show the outside of the house right before we got there.
I'll trust your eyes.
They weren't crusted over at the time, so I'm pretty good. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
Oh, another add-on.
But I love that Professor Frink came up with this entire concept by at the airport seeing one of those like cans that would dance, which I don't know if people will remember those today, but like in the 90s, they would have these weird toys. They're not even really toys, like things you'd set on the table. And like if you would like clap or music would play, they would like dance. Yeah, like I saw a cactus, a flower. They did that big mouth Billy Bass thing, which was a similar concept. But this was just a beer can or a soda can that would like dance. They did those
for, like Jolt Cola, like it would have.
Is that what it was?
And a guitar.
Mm-hmm. So as you can see, it responds to any percussive sound with an exuberant shaking of its groove thing.
Yeah.
And Lisa has the obvious question. Yeah. So all Professor Frink does is he takes the on-off switch off of the can and puts it on the bottom of a tap shoe, and somehow that makes it a self-tapping shoe. Oh, that's brilliant, Professor.
What do you think of next?
They could have gone into the exact, technical specifications, but you don't want the Russians getting that technology.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the Simpsons always do it first, so we don't want to hand that over.
Right. Yeah. Simpsons did Cold War.
But what will Frank think of next?
And he actually shows her. He's got one of those balls with a weasel attached to it that just rolls around that used to be in like the they actually put these out in the middle of the mall. Yeah. In like every mall in the 90s. And Frink gets way too excited about this. He's hoping to turn it into a weapon.
Glavin, it'll kill you.
And Lisa, like, very like scared, like, I've got to go now.
I have lots of science questions about the technology.
Did he bring her back to the stage, or did she have to walk back?
Like she had to just ride her bike.
She just had to tappa back.
Tappa the whole way home.
Practice.
At this point, she's got the shoes. She can just clap herself home.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. We cut back to the mall once again, where we see that because of this giant rat, the obvious choice is to release a lion. A live lion into the mall, but unfortunately the lion goes straight for that cheese block and gets knocked out by the anvil.
Which might have been
and they moved the positioning of the anvil because when Wiggum went to grab it, it landed in the middle of his back. But when
this landed on his head.
Yeah, it hits him right in the top of the head.
You're right.
And it fell a lot faster this time, too.
They used a bigger anvil. I don't know. Yeah. I love though, with almost so no emotion. Lou and Eddie, when they see this, they're like, "Hey, Chief, should we get the backup lion?"
Because of course they have a backup lion.
You're not going to bring one lion and not a second. What are you, new?
Again, that's part of the comedy that always made you love The Simpsons. And back in the day, was like they always took the joke, and when you think it's over, they always do one other thing that's just stupid funny, and it just makes you enjoy it. Stupid little thing of adding the extra line, but it makes it so much more funny.
Well, it reminds me of Rex Banner getting catapulted out of Springfield. That was unexpected. All right, put the prisoner in the catapult.
Almost immediately, we see Bart and Milhouse hiding behind the bushes on lookout for the lion. But when Milhouse pokes his head through the bushes to look, he's like literally face to face with the lion. But unfortunately, he's rendered speechless, so he's not able to communicate this through Bart. He's trying to like mime it.
I don't know what it was, but like the way he was sounding just seemed to. I mean, I understand he's being speechless. It just didn't feel very Simpson-y to me. I don't know.
Here's my thing: like he already looked like super disheveled, like, and only had one shoe on. Like his hair was like.
Well, he's been living in the mall. That's why his hair is disheveled.
I know, but so was Bart, and Bart wasn't like, and Bart had both of his shoes. Like, it's almost like he'd already dealt with the lion. It's almost like they did this like out of order.
Maybe he actually did fall off the side rail.
I mean,
left his shoe.
I'm not, or it's like the Simpsons, the Simpsons, the Halloween episode is like, oh, I can't run too fast after 30 years of eating nothing but gummy worms.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
I do love this joke that we see right here. I think this is a joke that hits super hard for anyone who's ever worked in a mall. That's why I'm attached to it. But Bart gets the idea to make a break for the exit with Milhouse, but when he gets to the exit sign, it says exit coming soon, which if you've ever worked in a mall, especially like a kind of dying mall, like that's what the majority of the storefronts look like. It's all these things that they have planned that sometimes never come to fruition. Hopefully that exit gets there one day.
Hopefully. But if you notice, there is a convenient bin right next to that freaking exit area.
There sure is. Yeah, there's a bin of like just balls of yarn that wasn't kept inside the store. It was like put out onto the walkway. Yeah, and Bart has the genius idea to throw the yarn at the lion, and it works just like a cat. It starts playing.
You're a
playing
genius.
with it. I love too when they find the lion later. It's just got a little bit of like pink string hanging out, but Wiggum confuses that for the tail, and is just like, and that's the end of that.
Yeah,
tail.
Lou does it. Yeah,
Lou does that, and then Wiggum gets the dad joke line in there. But I enjoy that Milhouse declares Bart a genius, but then immediately gets jumped on by the lion. Yeah. Bart has to throw a second thing of yarn to get it to go away.
Nothing. And we get a lot of really good medical advice. If considering the medical advice people follow today, we get a lot of good medical advice. Find out if your cat has a problem, you just dance it away. And if you get mauled by a lion, all you need is some gummy worms.
I mean, you said it's got bones
right up. Yeah, it's true. It strengthens you right up. I love Wiggum's dismissal of this too, because when he does his dad joke, he's like, "That's the end of that tail," and he does the hand brushes thing off.
Chief, shouldn't we try and get the mountain lion back in its crate?
I repeat. And he just brushes his hands off again and walks away. Like that's somebody else's problem. Yeah, we don't have a rat. We have a lion. Much better. Everything's
they'll send the gorilla after that.
And that's literally the end of that mall plot too, if I'm not mistaken. Like I'm pretty sure that's where we end that because we're cutting back to Lisa now, and I think we're gonna wrap up at this recital unless we have one more.
Tail will be wrapped.
Yeah, exactly.
I think canonically, there's still a lion roaming the mall.
No, I told you they give you the gorillas, and the gorillas die off from the winter or whatever.
They'll eventually get to it in season like 35. They'll be, oh yeah, remember this that we set up years ago? We didn't forget. That wasn't a mistake.
24 years ago, we set up a joke.
Have you heard of Puma?
We cut back to the dance recital where Vicky is getting everybody ready. They need big smiles, so she's got them lined up for a dimpling. Now, this may hurt a lot. What am I saying, May? And then she like literally like uses like a rivet gun to like put dimples into the kids' faces. Lisa comes running in excited. Little Vicky, I figured out how to dance. I can be in the show now.
I'm sorry, Lisa. People go to a children's dance recital expecting a certain level of professionalism.
but you don't understand.
Oh, I ate too much plastic candy.
And of course, this is Ralph, who's literally eating the set.
But it's not just that he ate plastic candy; he ate too much plastic candy. So,
and
like, he knew what he was doing.
More than one, like there was multiple fake lollipops lying around him with bites out of it too. So it's not like he just did one either.
Yep.
Vicky's upset. Heavens to Betsy, the star of the show, is sick. Whatever will we do? There's only one person who can get us out of this pickle. Lisa?
Yes?
Help me into Ralph's costume.
And it fits her really well.
It fits her so well.
For the most part. I mean, Ralph is a husky child.
I guess, yeah.
Half her height.
All right, it's showtime, children. Let's go, Lisa. It's time for our curtain puller. It's your moment to shine. Oh, this is far too important. I'll do it for you. That is the worst moment for Vicky by far in terms of like mean things she said to Lisa.
Yep.
And she doesn't even do it smoothly. She like yanks it down 3 times.
There was no pulla. Exactly. Yeah. We see that the dance recital begins, and it's like a astronaut version of the spaceship lollipop is what it's called. Uh, Vicky's in the lead role now, dancing out of a spaceship with some of the kids, and the other kids are dressed as aliens hiding behind the rocks. They get out of their spaceship, and one of them's like, let's walk over to them.
Why walk when you can dance?
And the piano music hits, and the girls all start dancing in line with one another, and everything seems to be going fine. But when we cut to the audience, we see Marge asking to Homer next to him, where's Lisa?
Shh, this plot is hard enough to follow as it is.
Homer.
We see backstage Lisa has her Professor Frink shoes on, and the show out on stage is going flawlessly so far, but the more they tap, the more her shoes react. And before too long, she actually finds herself dancing out onto stage, which at first that like has Marge relieved. She's excited to see her daughter.
The pressure we put on her really paid off.
You know? And on stage, little Vicky starts the solo, which was supposed to go to Ralph, but I guess it's her time to shine once again. But once again, Lisa's automatic shoes force her to keep up with Vicky. And at this moment, Vicky is like very suspicious. Like, what are you doing?
I can't help it. It's the shoes.
Nobody upstages little Vicky.
I love
that animation
better.
I love the look on Lisa's face. She's legit like scared or concerned or exhausted or all of the above. And she's begging Vicky to stop. And Vicky still does not understand what's happening. She just thinks that the harder she dances, the more Lisa is trying to like upstage her.
Yeah, they're doing like flips and shit. Like,
yeah.
And that's what makes me question the whole science behind this device, because it's just supposed to be loud percussion or loud noises gets it to keep working, basically.
You mean the part where they put a power switch and ripped it off of a toy and put it onto a shoe? Was it the part you questioned?
This thing is definitely weapon capable because it's honing in on little Vicky as she's dancing. So, like, he's already got it good to go. Whoever the manufacturer of this toy is, I mean, they need a military contract.
Yeah, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Lisa is freaking out. Her shoes are literally starting to smoke. And the more she goes, the more the audience is getting into it. She does that thing where she does like a wall run to do a backflip, and the crowd goes wild. Lisa's begging them to stop. Professor Frink is in the audience begging them to stop. He's going to kill us. She'll kill us all. Or yeah, he'll kill us all.
And that's when she finally gets down to the audience. That's when they finally are like, running away, which them
Lisa's gone berserk. Do something, Homer. Do something.
I like how we're actually still moving.
I loved this moment. This might have been my favorite moment of the episode because Homer just looks completely confident and just sticks his leg out. And
I didn't think, I just acted.
But like the little shoes are still going even when she trips over and she's on the ground, which is just a good little animation touch there.
Honestly, another line right here that is contention for my favorite of the episode is when Vicky realizes what's going on. Self-tapping shoes. I'm ever so pissed.
Like, yeah, that's a great line. Oh, I'm ever so pissed. Like, that's so good.
I just wanted to be a dancer so badly.
I understand. We all do crazy things when we're desperate. I once destroyed Buddy Ebsen's credit rating.
Why?
He knows why. I looked about Buddy Ebsen is a famous comedian and actor. So just for he's another old actor, basically, for context.
Well, and just to throw it out there, credit ratings weren't a thing till 1989. So
I didn't catch that. That's beautiful.
She waited a long time to destroy his credit rating.
Revenge is best served cold, my dude.
But it's like
it's really, really cold, like beyond cold.
What are you gonna do? Stop him from buying a house or like getting a loan at this point? He's in his 80s. Like, what does it matter now?
Oh, but he knows what he did.
He knows.
Now you'll
Harry Glavin. They're in the off position.
You'll never own a boat.
Yeah, honestly, Richie, you're just getting there. You want on a boat? Richie, you're just getting there. Frink has this really sweet moment. Actually, it's almost I don't want to say uncharacteristic because that makes it seem like he's like a bad dude, but like it was like a very thoughtful moment for Professor Frink.
Jesus, Marion Glavin, these shoes are in the off position.
You mean I danced all by myself?
See, honey, all you needed was to believe.
What are you talking about, Professor? These shoes are clearly in the on position. See, they're on.
I was merely trying to spare the girl's feelings, you insensitive clod.
Well, now that I look even closer.
I get it, Dad. I guess I'm never going to be your Broadway baby.
Oh, that's not true, honey. You can always write a depressing Broadway play of some kind.
You think so?
Sure, it could be a story about people coming to terms with things.
Hey, yeah, you can load it up with lots of swears. That's what David Mamet does.
And that's our
very
quick
true.
resolution where Lisa is like, I love you guys. They actually, as they're all walking out together, Homer, Marge, Lisa, and Frink, they come across the Ball and Weasel going berserk like Lisa was moments ago.
Uh-oh, it's out of its matrix. Nobody move.
Why? It's just a cute little weasel. Hello there, Mr. Weasel.
It's like laser sounds.
He starts dabbing him.
The screen goes black there.
I will say the switch thing. I did like when they kind of recycled that joke and used it in Futurama, when it was Bender had to feel what Leela was feeling. Like, oh, it seems to have burned out. Like, oh, it's not even on. Oh wait, no, it's working at triple capacity.
And that does bring us to the end of our episode, Last Tap Dance in Springfield. However, we do get a different style on the closing credits. It's done in like an old school movie style, like a black and white movie, one like maybe a Shirley Temple might have been in. And instead of the shh at the end, we get a tappa, tappa, tappa. And one last little like Easter egg, I guess, if you will. We get the cat that we talked about earlier from the old film, rubbing his eyes in disbelief as the show comes to an end.
I did like that touch.
It was a nice little touch. Yeah, I agree.
The cat's literal touching. You like that? All right.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the end of our episode. Patty Cakes, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Last Tap Dance in Springfield.
I mean, I'm still wondering if like this series of events lasted an entire week, or like what else happened with the mall. Like if this was only a couple of days, like it seems, what did Bart and Milhouse do for the rest of that week?
Right?
That's a good point. Yeah, they're just hanging out with a lion at this point.
Well, no, I'm sure they've left the mall at this point. Like,
no, this is actually the last episode in the chronologically speaking.
They went to the cave where Milhouse goes when he cries.
Oh yeah, I mean that.
There
makes
it
sense.
is. Yeah. Richie, what about you or that book of yours? Anything else you wanted to add to this episode?
I don't know if this episode will be in my top 5. I will admit I laughed a lot more on the rewatching of this because of, it had a lot of great jokes in it. A lot of this stuff was a little bit over the top and crazy, but it made me laugh hysterically. So I regard this episode higher than I remembered it. I'm honestly at a point where, like, especially with our best darn everythings, where I've forgotten all the episodes in this season. So I can't say if it'll be in the top 5, but this was better than I remembered it being.
Very good. One last bit of trivia on my end I wanted to bring up is due to the musical tap dance sequences in this episode, it was nominated for a Golden Reel Award for Best Sound Editing, Television, Animation, and Music by the Motion Picture Sound Editors. And they actually, it was the music editor Bob Beecher that was nominated. They did not win, but still kind of cool to get a nomination.
That's my follow-up.
I was
absolutely
gonna, bring that up earlier when we were talking about like how difficult the animation was. I was going to say, as someone who's made audio commercials and things like that, like syncing up the audio with the video, knowing which, it's not just like, oh, I'm making a tap sound and like it's the same sound every time. Like, the shoe sliding forward and the shoe sliding back, those are going to be two separate and distinct sounds. You're hitting the front and back tap, so you have to make sure you're getting it. Like that to me was one of the more impressive aspects of this episode.
Very much so. One last thing from the commentary, and then we'll wrap it up and get out of here. But they talked on the commentary about the importance of Shirley Temple, and I already mentioned to you that she literally saved Fox during World War II, during the I'm sorry, that was Richie's joke. After the during the Great Depression, she saved Fox Studios. So Fox actually has a permanent lot dedicated to her on their studio lot. It never gets changed. It's like her movie sets. And there's actually a formal dining room that's called the Shirley Temple Dining Room right there on the Fox lots. And when Al Jean got married, he actually got married in Ireland, but for legal reasons had to have a ceremony or at least, something in the United States. So his actual wedding was in Ireland, but they did a wedding ceremony in the Shirley Temple dining room on the Fox lot. And Mike Scully described it on the commentary. They were literally at work. He went over and they went to the Shirley Temple dining room. He had their official ceremony. Then they got some onion rings and then they went back to work.
Sounds like a very Al Jean wedding.
It does seem like a very Al Jean wedding. That's exactly why I brought it up. I thought it was a great story. And that's what we're going to end this episode on. Patty Cakes, thank you again so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you. Wish you brought Ashes, but next time we'll have her on with you again and get the whole crew back together. Real quick, why don't you go ahead and do a quick plug of any of your socials and anything that you want to let people know about?
Oh, yeah. You can find all of our stuff on our Facebook group, Throwdown Thursday Podcast. You can check out all our latest news and articles. I just did a review of the upcoming film Bloody Summer Camp. That review is up on throwdownthursdaypodcast.com. You can find me every Monday on Creator Spotlight. You can also find alternate Tuesdays, Shark Bites. All my stuff's on.
Basically, any podcast that has won an award is probably Patty Cake. So you should just check those all out.
We're on Spotify, iTunes, all the heavy hitters. But yeah.
Very cool. And go ahead.
You can pick up my book. How much do you tip an exorcist on Amazon?
There it is. Richie, go ahead and hit him with all of our socials, and we'll call it a day.
You can follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. You can follow me at TheWiz_Kid23. Most importantly, you can follow our show at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY. I think you guys should hit up all these award shows proclaiming our show the best, even though it's already over with. But, let's get ahead
and we
for
can submit, but
Yeah, exactly. I think that'll work out great.
For sure. As always, thank you so much for tuning into our show. We very much appreciate you hitting that download button. Richie and I will be back again next week, either for a Best Darn Everything that we haven't picked a topic for, or our next Simpsons episode, which will be covering It's a Mad, 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 Mad Marge.
Until then, everyone knows what the three of us will have to be doing. Sugaring our own churros.
And until next time, tappa, tappa, tappa.